Studies major at Cal Poly Humboldt. My major is in natural sciences, studio art, and a little bit of philosophy. So the issue I'll be discussing today is the spotted owl population decline. I chose this topic because it's a wildlife management issue that requires philosophical questions and discussions. And I'm making a painting about it because I like painting. But also, it's a visual representation of the issue, and a painting will grab attention more easily than like a paper or something, and it would act as another form of communication. So you look at a painting because it's pretty, and then you'll see the data represented in here and have a little bit of a deeper understanding of the issue and a visual memory tied to it, so it'll stick in your head as another form of communication. Spotted owls live up and down the west coast of the United States, and they've been listed as threatened on the endangered species list since 1990. This is mostly due to habitat loss from logging and wildfires, but also a big problem has been the invasive species of the barred owl, which also has found habitat in this old-growth forest. Barred owls previously lived in the eastern side of the United States, and one big factor that drove them west is the suppression of Native American burnings. After Europeans showed up, it's because the controlled burns were not taking place. The Great Plains were no longer a barrier between two forests, and they became forested. So barred owls sort of moved west throughout that, and then they've been spreading on the north coast since up to Washington. So the data in this painting is from Partnership for Coastal Watersheds.org, and the y-axis, it shows the proportion of each species in the population per year. And I'll put a key on the side showing which line goes to what species, and the year is on the x-axis on the bottom. And the habitat of the owls is in these old-growth coniferous forests, so I'm using the lines and where they intersect there as like the hills that you would see, the foggy hills that you see the forests on. I'm also going to put a rat in there. That's the small rodents are like the main diet of both barred owls and spotted owls, and diet is part of the issue. The goal here is to try to make the painting look nice and work as a painting, but I also want it to be able to clearly show you the information so you can read as much of the information as possible. So the population of spotted owls have declined 31 to 55% since the 90s, and yeah, a lot of that is mostly because of logging and clear cutting, which actually once spotted owls got declared as threatened, that's how a lot of laws on logging started sort of from that, because they're an indicator species. A lot of the things that spotted owls and barred owls both require are the same. So they require pretty much the same habitat and diet, and so there's so much competition for space and food. And barred owls are currently winning that competition because they're larger, more aggressive. They have a little bit wider of a variety of food they can eat. They can live a little bit more densely together. This means that spotted owls really are at a disadvantage. And when two competing species are fighting for territory, one of them will either leave or hide or die out. So there's not really anywhere for spotted owls to go since there's not that much old growth forest left on this. And instead they're kind of hiding and staying quiet right now, which means that they're less able to reproduce. Being able to make their calls is what makes them reproduce. And so what can you do about that? So in a USGS report that was published in 2019, there was a study on the removal of barred owls. And the thing about that is you would think, okay, so you get rid of some of the barred owls. Now the spotted owls can repopulate. Sounds great. But in a lot of those studies, the barred owls just repopulated where they had been removed. So, like, it didn't help. I mean, it didn't really make that much of a difference because they could just repopulate. If you just kill them out, that the reason that they win is that the reason they'll just repopulate again. So that sort of brings some of the fun little philosophical discussion to the table. I was in a Intro to Wildlife conservation or something class a couple semesters ago, and this problem came up. The question was, would you kill a barred owl to make room for a spotted owl? And in that class, a lot of people were really divided. A lot of people immediately were like, yeah, it's just like pulling weeds. It's just like pulling weeds. There are so many, there's so many barred owls, not that many spotted owls. Barred owls are the ones that are invasive. Yeah, I'll kill them out the same way that I would pull out plants. And why is a bird any different? But a lot of people really didn't think it was their place and were concerned that, yeah, they would just repopulate, which it turns out they would just repopulate. So then you've just killed a bunch of birds and maybe made a little bit of a dent in the habitat, but is it worse to do nothing? And the question is, like, is there much we can really do besides just rewinding time that will bring back the old growth forests before and stop the barred owls from getting here? I don't know. I know there have been hybrid species of barred owls and spotted owls that have been a little bit more successful. But this is an interesting question. It's not just like one species or the other. And there was a lot of issues with logging, like you're putting people out of jobs if they can't be logging. There are a lot of questions related to this. So, I guess we're somewhat to the end of this painting. The question of how to conserve wildlife is not just so simple as just don't cut down trees or anything like that. Every question and every issue like this has so many layers, and it's a lot more complicated than one might think. There's about a minute left of this painting. Thank you for listening to my podcast.